are actually stuck in traffic because of an accident. But because we don't know how long they'll be stuck, I think we'll get started anyway, particularly as these are presentations and they're available to them later. So I'm just going to go through the apologies for absence and any substitutions.
Thank you, Councillor. I've received apologies from Councillor Davey, and that's it so far.
And additionally, Councillor Nicola Bugby. There are no substitutes from us.
Thank you very much. Chair's announcements. Emergency evacuation procedures. In the case of fire, a bell will ring continuously. If this occurs, please leave the building immediately following the green fire exit signs out to the assembly point, which is by the War Memorial in Duke Street. If anyone requires assistance, just let me know. Lifts should not be used. Please remain at the assembly point and do not attempt to return to the building until you've been advised it's safe to do so. I think we all know where the toilets and things are at the top of the stairs. Filming of this meeting. Anyone attending this meeting is entitled to film it, but I should point out that only the councillors, officers and anyone sitting around these tables may be filmed. Members of the public should not be filmed, so please ensure that cameras are pointed only in this direction. The meeting is being broadcast via YouTube and recorded, and I understand it is working this evening. Mobile phones, if you could either put them to silent or switch them off. Thank you very much. Go to item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 17th of November. Can I ask that these are approved as accurate for the 17th of November? Agreed? Okay, thank you. Item 4, decision and action sheet. Freddie, perhaps you could cover that, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to provide a verbal update on this item because there was only two things. The customer services review is to be added to the work programme that has since been added, and the housing delivery monitoring follow-up report will be provided in April.
Thank you. Declaration of interest, item 5. All members are reminded that they must disclose any interest they know they have in terms of business on the meeting's agenda, and that they must do so at this point on the agenda or as soon as they become aware of the interest. If the interest is a disclosable pecuniary interest, they are also obliged to notify the monitoring officer within 28 days of the meeting. Has anyone got an interest to declare? No, thank you. Public questions. I've not been notified of any public questions. So we will move on now to decisions called in. You'll be aware that we have called in the SIL from Cabinet, the items 9 and 10, and they will be dealt with on the 16th of February, next Monday. So those are the two items, and you should have received some papers for that already, I believe. It's the only item called in that way. And we also have Bowbridge and the Waterside projects, which we'll be doing as an informal debate later after that. So they'll all be notified to you already. Item 8 now. I think Councillor Donna will be... Donna Ely will be providing us with a presentation to give us an overview of Safer Chelmsford. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you and good evening. So I'll just update those of you that don't know me very well or aren't sure of what I actually do. So I'm actually Cabinet Member for Safer Chelmsford, and I have been since May 2024. This is my second year as portfolio holder. I was voted in as a City Councillor in May 2023 for Southwood and Ferrers, Woodville and Elmwood Ward, and nominated for Cabinet Deputy for Community Safety in that year. I have to try and remember to do this. Okay, my portfolio responsibilities are Public Places Directorate with Mr Nicholson, Public Health and Protection Services with Lewis Mould, Recycling and Waste Collection with Peter Masson, and Street Care with Tim Eaton-Fern. I'm in regular contact with all these managers and directors, and I have a cabinet briefing with Mr Nicholson every 2 weeks and other officers as well. Since May 2025, Councillor Jo Hawkins also falls within my responsibility. She's Deputy Cabinet Member for Support Services. She deals regularly with Louise Goodwin, Connected Services Director, and we're in contact, but basically Councillor Hawkins just gets on with it. We talk periodically, but she's very capable and she just gets on with it, really. All I have to do is approve street names, which is quite interesting sometimes. It's nice to see where the names originate from sometimes. I attend Cabinet member briefings, as I've already said, with the Director of Public Places, Spaces, and I receive community safety updates regularly from Spencer and his team. I won't say too much about community safety during this briefing because Spencer's here and he can update you as well. Just as an update on the staff that are actually part of the public health and protection responsibilities, for community safety and antisocial behaviour, including CCT, Karen Buttress, Lauren Bellinger and Spencer Clark carry out the main roles in that area, and the manager is Karen Buttress. And I've just noticed I've spelled, oh no, it's all right up there, it's on my sheet and the name's wrong. Functions include Licensing Act and Gambling Act, including premises, Hackney Carriage and private hire services, betting, gaming, gambling and street trading are all dealt with by Daniel Winter, and the manager is Jane Smith. Business compliance and housing standards, food standards, living conditions, housing grants, health and safety are looked after by Chris Cooper and Izzy Daniel, with the manager as Jane Smith. And public protection, such as noise complaints, animal welfare, littering, dog fouling, Karen Martin and Nicola Tansey looks after them, with Karen Buttress as manager again. Just out of interest, I attended Operation Guardian Night of Action on the 28th of October and was accompanied by Karen Stewart, who also works in the public health and protection area. Luke, and I can't remember I always want to say Luke Goss, but it's not Foss. But Luke Goss is a former singer, wasn't he? But it's Luke Foss, and also Sergeant Sarah Jeans. But Luke also works in Malden, and with my other hat as the neighbourhood watch coordinator for Southland Ferrers, I deal with Luke in his role as Malden and also Chelmsford. Towards the end of last year, we welcomed Lauren Bellinger as Community Safety Lead, and she replaced Kaylee Charlery. Karen Buttress was promoted to Operations Manager earlier in the year last year, and a new post has recently been made for a Safeguarding Officer, which, as I was last updated, is yet to be filled. Is that correct, Les? Thanks, Les. So, I think last year we didn't have many statistics or figures, so I thought I'd beef this one up with a few more figures. So just for the licensing statistics, as you can see, there's a number of premises licences issued under the Licensing Act 2003 is 590. Number of personal licences under the same Act is 2,676. Number of taxi driver licences and renewals is 307. Number of vehicle licences and renewals is 262. Number of private hire operator licences issued is 27. Pavement licences 42. Small lottery licences 73. And animal welfare licences 32, new and renewals. As you can see, the licensing team are very busy. As far as housing standards go, they are very busy as well, especially with the new laws that's come in with regards that Grenfell really initiated. In December, I had a meeting with Keith Lewis, Jane Smith, Councillor Foster and Paul Gaynor to get a better understanding of the Better Care Fund following the recent successes, and also get an update from Jane. I haven't really met Jane that much, so it's nice to get to know her and have a chat. the Better Care funds, we've been able to use some of the Better Care funds for social capital projects, including grants for chess, for the Stock Road housing units and conversion of some, so that there is disabled access. There's also pool pods that are going to be installed into Riverside and South Woodham swimming pools. And also at Chess, there's going to be accessible washing and laundry facilities. Current issues in housing standards, there's going to be forthcoming duties under the Renters' Rights Act. This will create new responsibilities for the team in terms of dealing with landlords and rented properties. And there's a lot going on in the background of that, with regard to that at the moment. Food safety, there's a number of food hygiene inspections undertaken in 2025 with 666, which is a bit concerning, isn't it? That isn't, yeah. But they have had several successes, which is the story that was, the main story last year was the Chennai Dosa, which had a prohibition order issued following recent successful prosecution for hygiene offences, and the link is there in the City for the City Life advert. There was a flagrant disregard for the law, and some serious misdemeanours were going on as far as that's concerned. Public Health and Protection Services, noise complaints were 1,097 in 25, and as far as FPNs issued, littering there was 19, dog fouling 3, fly tipping 2, breach of PSPO is 28, and smoking in a smoke-free place is 6. Now, look, I can imagine a lot of you are going to say that there's not very many. Sorry? Oh, sorry, fixed penalty notice. I beg your pardon. Yeah, I should imagine, but the policy for really Chelmsford City Council is one of education. We'd rather educate and make sure that people know what they should be doing. And then, you know, if people still aren't willing to play ball, then we will resort to FPNs or fixed penalty notices. Okay, so recycling and waste collection. Some of the roles that fall under that are residual non-recyclable waste, which is the black bins, commonly known as the black bins. And recycling collections include the food waste, plastic, paper, cardboard, and so on. I can list them all the different containers if you want, but I hope most of you that know what they are. Garden waste collection, and then there's special collections that includes bulky waste and clinical waste, and commercial waste and recycling. So recycling statistics for 24-25, food waste, there was 6,398.92 tonnes, garden waste, 14,886 tonnes, small electricals, which is what WEE is, small electricals, is 54 tonnes, paper, 1,588.78, card, 4,152.52 tonnes, plastic, 2,474.71 tonnes, cans, 675.58 tonnes, glass, 4,416.33 tonnes, and textiles, 21.12 tonnes. So you can see that we, as a council, we do recycle quite, well, vast amounts of our waste. As far as residual waste goes, there's 36,487 tonnes, which includes flats are collected each year. The number of collections is 2,405,000. That's including flats, and there's 80,000 properties, including flats, that we collect from each year. Approximately 4,100 in special collection of large items or bulky waste annually. And just for additional information, Chelmsford City Council have agreed to support the Essex Waste strategy this year. We're, as a council, really, we was way ahead of Essex County Council, which is why we just agreed to support it, because we did a lot more recycling. And from about 20 years, we've actually been doing recycling to the extent that we do at the moment. In addition, there's 640 MOTs carried out at Freighter House. And just to update on the garden waste charge, there's in 25-26 we introduced the charge for garden waste. It has proved popular with 40,381 subscriptions, an uptake of 59.8%, and revenue raised was £2,626,065. This year we've actually increased the charge slightly to £62 for the first bin, £32 for the second, and £62 for bins 3 to 6. So we've extended it. We actually only initially had 2 bins option last year. For residents on council tax support, the first bin is £46.50 and the second bin is £32. Residents had the option to pay by direct debit this year. It was only an annual so a one-off yearly and one direct debit. It hasn't really proved to be that popular, but we'll see how it goes. And that's it. Next year, if people want to pay by direct debit, they'll have to renew their direct debit option. But we're looking into actually doing renewals on credit cards, but we need to get a licence for that. So that's a work in progress at the moment. The current uptake up till the 2nd of, so last Monday, I think it was the 2nd, was 24,531 subscriptions, 36.6% of eligible properties, with a revenue of 1.7 million so far this year, which I think is really good, personally. Okay, so street care, street cleaning, jobs that or roles that include there is street cleaning, road sweeping, rural litter patrols, dog bin servicing, city centre cleaning, fly tipping, fly posting and graffiti, and they're supported by the customer and business support team. Indoor retail market and street trading activities, including the High Street and Love Your Chelmsford, particularly are involved with education on reducing waste and improving care and the care of the environment. So some of the statistics for street care, there's total number of bins, litter bins and tonnage collected are 520 bins with an average of 21 tonnes per week, 103 tonnes a month and 1,236 tonnes a year. Dog waste bins throughout the district and tonnage collected are 574 bins, 7.5 tonnes a week, 30 tonnes a month and 360 tonnes a year. So number of fly tips collected and tonnage is approximately 20 per week, ranging from a single black bag to 20-tonne construction waste. Weights are included in the street litter tonnages. A number of fly posting incidents average about 45 to 50 a year. Number of graffiti incidents are 250 to 300. And they're mainly tagging, and any offensive graffiti is removed within 24 hours of notification. And just as I learnt this the other week, the guys with this that do the street care, they actually go around with a spray, and if they see one, they'll just move it automatically. So they don't just go and collect the litter. I like that. I found this came up. That's a map of all the dog waste and litter bins within the whole of the Chelmsford district, so not just the city centre. So I liked that map. That came up out of a resident's query, and I just thought I'd throw it in.
So what's the difference between the red and the purple?
So the purple is the purple are the dog waste bins and the red ones are the litter bins. But I think it does say at the top there, map of the litter is red and dog waste is purple. But yeah, no, I liked that map. I got very excited, really, which is quite sad. Sorry? Yeah, that's the whole of the Chelmsford district. Yeah, that's the whole district. So if you look in the bottom corner, that's South Woodham Ferrers, so I just point that one out, and then you can see the various bins around there. So I think you can see that there's groupings with the villages and the towns. Okay, so the next one is Love Your Chelmsford, and so Love Your Chelmsford, the number of community engagements undertaken, the community litter picking programme was 2,927, equipment packs were given out to volunteers, litter campaigns, approximately 22,000 residents saw the large litter sculptures. I don't know if you saw them, the cans, and so they were taken around the community. And the community events such as Chelmsford Litter Clean and Chelmsford Skills Fest, that was 1,500 engagements last year. And then they do a huge amount on social media, and there's various campaigns and stories. Facebook, there's 415,000 views, and Instagram, 189,000 views. Personally, I always see the Facebook stories, but I'm not really into Instagram. I keep getting told that I should start looking at it more. And that all this work is actually just done by the equivalent of 2.8 full-time equivalent of staff. And I'm actually meeting with Love Your Chelmsford with other councillors tomorrow just for an update and a briefing on the other work that they've done. Okay, so Chelmsford Market, this is hot off the press and I haven't updated my notes, so you'll have to forgive me if I look at the slide. So Chelmsford Market continues to prove popular. The store occupancy at the moment is 69.2%, and all the kiosks are occupied at the moment apart from one, which is kiosk 11. In February, the market was awarded, gained the Real Deal accreditation, and I was actually invited along for a photo opportunity, got on the website. They also won, I didn't know about this one, or I just don't remember it, they also won the Youth Small Indie Retailer Business Award, and then in September they also won the NABMA Small Market Team of the Year Award. Now, I can never remember what the NABMA stands for, so I will find out if anyone wants to know. It's a National Association of something and market something. Sorry?
British Market Association.
Yeah, something like that. I keep being told, but I always forget, so... So the street care priorities for the coming year include the implementation for a new in-cab systems smart suite, which will allow for more efficient rounds for both the refuse and waste and street care teams. The review of the litter bin condition for Chelmsford City Council. National Association of British Market Authorities. There we go. Thank you very much, Grant. Review of so the street care priorities, so the second one is the review of the litter bin condition for Chelmsford City Council and the dog waste bin conditions, mainly in the parishes. And there's the implement more regular sweeping of centre islands on the highways. Okay, so that's just an update and a roundup really of what the teams do. I'm sure you agree that all our teams work really hard and actually do a tremendous job in looking after all our residents in Chelmsford. So back to me now. So my additional portfolio holder memberships include the Essex Waste Partnership, the Essex Police Fire and Crime Panel member, one Chelmsford board, the 3 board, Safer Essex, Chelmsford and Malden Neighbourhood Watch Group as a member and also admin for the South Wooden Ferrers Neighbourhood Watch Facebook group, working with comms and regular meetings with Essex Police, although I do see them all regularly. I haven't actually had a one-to-one recently with Emily, but I think it was last October the last time I actually got together with Emily, but everyone's just so busy. Trying to schedule everything in all the time is a bit difficult. Recent meetings, on the 14th of January I attended Safer Essex. I attended the CPC Peer Progress Review all day on the 15th of January. Attended Chelmsford, Malden and Group Neighbourhood Watch meeting in Malden on the 28th of January. Members Special Interest Group on Counter-Terrorism, 29th of January 2026, which Spencer kindly introduced me to, and it's really quite fascinating and interesting. And it's good to catch up with councillors from other areas, really, and find out what their problems and issues are. And you won't believe some of the things that some of the councillors have to deal with. I think we get off quite light in Chelmsford. The Holocaust Memorial Service on the 29th of January. I was at the Essex Police Fire and Crime Panel confirmation hearing last week, where the new Assistant PFCC, Joel Charles, was appointed. And also the panel where councillors from across Essex considered the budget for the Police Fire and Crime Commissioner last week. That was actually approved for both the Fire and Essex Police. I just love a quote. So this is the quote for this year. The reward of a thing well done is to have it done. And that's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. So I don't know if you can see those pictures very well, but so the highlights and awards for this year. I've already mentioned the market. There's a picture of me at the Real Deal accreditation in February last year. There's the Make Space for Girls, which is led by the community safety team. And I just want to thank Spencer and his team, really. They do a huge amount of work for this. They raise funds and money from, I don't know where. They always manage to find a pot of money from somewhere. There's the first Make Space for Girls is in actually Central Park, and it was with the Boswell School. You worked with the Boswell School, and I mean, when I first saw the girls at the first meeting, they was all so well, and there was a lad there as well, wasn't there? They was all so shy and everything, and then by the end of the project, they was just so full of it and so pleased that adults and also the council were willing to listen to them and their views and ideas, and the pride that they have in the actual area that's been designed and also the stones painted under the bridge is really amazing to see. And this is hot off the press, and I'm sure Spencer won't mind me saying that they've actually been invited. They're year 11 now, these students. They were year 9 when the project started. And they've actually been invited to the Houses of Parliament by the MP to speak to other MPs about the project and the importance of safety for girls and having these spaces in public spaces. So that's a really good thing. Up there is also the popular recycling open day at Freighter House. I didn't actually manage to get along this year, and that photo up there is sort of me in one of the trucks last year. But I know it's popular. There's a tree giveaway that's been held for a couple of years now. I think it's the 3rd year this year. And they really sell out quickly. Some trees are more popular than others, but I say sell out, they're given away, they're not sold, but people really claim them very quickly. And Compass Gardens is one of the areas in South Holland Ferrers. And also, finally, the Purple Flag accreditation, we gained it, Chelmsford City Council gained it again this year. I attended the briefing and assessment on the 7th of November, only the meeting. I didn't stay all night. Spencer and Karen had the joy of showing the Purple Flag people around the town and the city. So I attended the briefing on the 7th of November. Grant was there, you was there that night as well. And it was actually the same night that was it the Pink Ladies or who was it? Stop the Wethersfield buses were supposed to be, well they did, they had a small protest, but they had all packed up by 6:30 and had gone to the pub because I don't think it was as enjoyable, I don't think it was as well attended as they thought it was going to be. So Spencer was there, keeping her, monitoring it, weren't you? And I think a huge sigh of relief went round by all the Chelmsford City Council members that they had gone before they were actually being shown round. There was representatives from the BID, businesses in the town, Culture Chelmsford, and then other councillors and partners. Purple, and this is hot off the press as well, on Friday we actually got the assessment from Purple Flag, the full report, and I just want to read you some of the things that the Purple Flag say about Chelmsford City Council, or Chelmsford City Centre I should say, and the council. But Purple Flag recognises that Chelmsford is a safe and vibrant city centre, and a great deal of work goes into evidencing this, along with an on-site evening assessment by the Association of Town and City Centre Management, ATCM. The city centre is assessed on well-being, broad appeal, place and policy envelope. The full report was received by Friday the 6th of Feb, and some of the highlighted comments include: Chelmsford absolutely deserves reaccreditation. They are invested in Purple Flag and do a good job of looking after their evening and nighttime economy. The theatre bar was buzzing with 2 sold-out shows for the evening. The theatre is a success story. 2 years after getting a refurbishment, it is doing really well and generating surplus. The city centre was really clean and well looked after. Evidence of significant improvements in lighting and presentation, bridges at the riverside and some exemplary lighting in and out of Tyndall Square. The most outstanding aspect of this assessment was the variety of offer available for young people, which was well managed, diverse and interesting. Chelmsford CCT is an exemplar in terms of state-of-the-art technology and effectiveness of its usage. It operates as a safety command and control centre, bringing together public and private sector. Chelmsford stands out due to the consistency of the hospitality offer, despite the same pressures endured across the country. When one business closes, another seems to open. There are very few empty premises in the Purple Flag area. So that, I mean, congratulations to Spencer really and his team and all the hard work that that have gone into actually doing this assessment again this year. And then, as I said before, Operation Guardian, I attended on the 28th of October this year. I had a really interesting evening. Sergeant Sarah Jeans from Essex Police was amazing, updating me on everything that's going on with the neighbourhood policing team. I met the 2 night marshals, which are employed by the BID, and their relationship with the businesses is really encouraging. So yeah, that was a really enjoyable evening. So that was good. And then finally, I just want to say thank you again to the directors, the managers and the staff who do work so hard all year round to ensure that our residents live in a safe, clean and healthy Chelmsford. So that's the end of my presentation this evening. So if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them if I can. Otherwise, I'll pass them on to officers.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Eady, for a very interesting and thorough presentation, as always. As your shadow, I feel duty-bound to say something this evening. hopefully in a positive way. But thanks very much for the statistics. I think really good to have those the numbers in there. The one thing I would say about statistics, however, is that they're only really any good if you've got a comparator. So I'm thinking particularly of slides 9 and 10, when you've got the recycling and waste statistics. It might be useful to have some sort of comparison with similar size authorities or other areas or regions. That would be really helpful. I don't want to put too much work on your officers, but that would help us, I think, really identify the scale of what's going on. And likewise, whenever you mention a figure for this year, it'd be really useful to know what it was last year so we can pick up the trends in that. So that'd be really good. Second point, and this was just one came off the top of my head, Frater House, you mentioned the open day. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, and we're talking, last century almost, Frater House was actually, you could take local groups of people around Frater House to show them the operations of what went on there. I'm thinking sort of Rotary clubs, scout groups, whatever. I just wonder whether that was still, I haven't done it for at least 15 years. I just wonder whether that was still available as something that could be done.
If you contact Peter Masson and ask him, I'm sure he loves showing people around. He was really enjoyed showing me around when I first became cabinet member. But just reach out to Peter. He's quite welcoming, and I'm sure that he's quite happy to show people around.
Great. Okay.
I'll warn him in the morning that I've told you that.
Stand by. Okay. And the final thing was, I know it's probably I'm looking at Councillor Clark here as well, but when it comes to the licensing and the Bewley Parkway scheme of charging for permits for the taxis, have you had much in the way of feedback regarding that? Good, bad, or otherwise?
We haven't heard anything. There was a few comments before Christmas, which we followed up and chased up. We haven't heard of any problems since Christmas. The permits are coming up for renewal in the next month or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll find out what the uptake is, if that's still going to be encouraging. We had there was I think Lewis updated me last week to say that one permit holder renewed his vehicle and he just was happy to keep the permit. And we put Michael, who's actually based there, one of our officers is actually based there. He said he hasn't noticed any issues, particularly since Christmas or anything like that. I think there's a period of bedding in. I think it's going to take a year or so for everything to sort itself out. And we'll find out how many taxis want to renew their permits in a month or so. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Mould? No? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. It was very interesting. I'd like to put my question around street care. My ward is Chelmsford Village and Bewley Park. Chelmsford Village Green is a large area with bins, and we have a lot of litter. Interested litter wombles, I should say.
Yes.
It's a significant number of my caseload comes
They
through
do a
litter
good job,
wombles.
they litter wombles.
And my question is around bins. The parish council has invested a considerable sum in tens of thousands in buying new bins, which are sitting somewhere, I guess, at Frater House, waiting for the city to install them. And we've been told you're missing officers to do that. I just wonder for an update on manpower, effectively.
I think I spoke to Tim last week. The two members of staff actually left, and they're actually in the process of replacing them at the moment. So once they're replaced, then we can get back on task to actually replace the bins. But unfortunately, I think it was ill health and other reasons. So the two main members left us, and we've been left in the lurch. So Tim's in the process of recruiting at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. And I can see you've got the plans, the City Council owned bins, to look at them as well, because I also get comments on those. So I'm pleased to see that's going to happen.
Yeah, Tim's very good, and he does monitor. If councillors highlight areas, him and his team do monitor the areas, and if a bin needs moving or putting in, he will do it. But he does need to monitor it first. He can't just put them in just because someone's told him that the bin's needed there. They do need to go for a monitoring period.
Councillor Steele, I think you had a question.
Thank you. I'll start by saying thank you for the statistics. Very
Yeah,
useful.
no, I think
And
the
I'll
word
also,
was
I also want to say thank you to your officers who in all cases I found them extremely responsive when I've got an issue, and if I phone up or email them, which is fantastic. I was going to raise the same point that Councillor Wilson raised, slides 9 and 10, but I'll put it in a slightly different way. I've done a quick sum of slide number 9 and then compared that with slide 10. I reckon you're talking 34,000 tonnes of recycling and 36,000 tonnes of residual, if I've done my maths right, which is about 50% residual. And I'm same question as Councillor Wilson, really. How does that compare with other district councils? What's the trend? I think my first reaction was 50% residual kind of sounds high. And I expected, I suppose the word residual means what's left, but half of it being residual seems high. Have you got any view or feel of how we compare with other districts? I know Councillor Wilson asked for that, but it'd be useful to get off the top of the head. Are we up there? What's our target? What's the trend, and so on?
Mr Nicholson, I'll take you on that.
Okay, so I'd first of all caution you about trying to compare weights with other authorities, because they provide different services, different population, different demographics and such like. But if you use the headline recycling rate, so our current recycling rate is, it varies between about 52 and 53%. That's above the average for Essex, which is less than 50%. Obviously, it's well above the national average, which is now dropped to about 45, 46%. So to give you some sort of context for that, I mean, in fairness, the cabinet member receives quite a lot of detailed comparative information. The Essex household recycling figures are produced, they're reviewed at the Essex Waste Partnership, and they're created into a sort of league table, which is actually not very helpful because people get very defensive about it because you're not really comparing like with like. And I think that headline figure of recycling rate is a very blunt instrument, because it basically, the heavier the stuff that you recycle, the higher your recycling rate is. Whereas actually what you want to be recycling is make sure you recycle all your aluminium and plastic and such like, some of which is quite light. So it's quite complicated. We could completely overwhelm you by statistics, but they would, pretty much every one would require a proper evaluation and explanation to say what it's really meaning. The trends, for Chelmsford year on year, obviously we do monitor those, and they're stable, whereas nationally recycling rate has tended to fall in England. Ours has continued to be above the 50%. It will vary, year to year. For example, the very dry year, we've just experienced, there'll be less garden waste, collected because it's been really dry. So the recycling rate is likely to go down because it's done by, weight. So you will get those fluctuations, but the trend is really positive in Chelmsford.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Councillor Ely. With regards to the garden waste and the charge, I saw a figure of about 2.6 million. How does that compare to what Council was expecting? And the same goes for the percentage of properties that have taken up the garden waste charge.
So last year, I think it was nearly a 60% uptake, which exceeded our expectations. I think it's one of the highest in Essex, if I'm correct. Yeah. So, I mean, that exceeded our expectation. We didn't really expect 60% of properties. So it just shows that properties in Chelmsford specifically really appreciate that service and were willing, you know, to carry on with the service despite having to pay for it. They really appreciated it.
So that would mean that there's a lot more money that's coming from garden waste than what was budgeted for.
That's correct, yes.
Therefore, why the increase in the charge if we're obtaining more money than what we had already budgeted for?
I mean, just as far as fees go, there was just we agreed that there would be a 3% increase, really, for each of the fees this year, so more or less. So we just wanted to carry on with that, just cover inflation, because all the costs are still going up as far as collection, fuel, everything like that. So our costs to carry on collecting the garden waste are still going up. So we just needed to make sure with inflation that we covered it.
I mean, I understand. I'm just trying to square the circle. Is that we've got more money coming in than what we expected, but then we've increased it more to cover costs. I don't see how that's kind of that doesn't quite make sense to me financially. But I mean, that might be something I'll probably have to take up with.
Yeah, perhaps Councillor Davison. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
He's the figures man.
I think Councillor Clark, did you have a question?
Thank you, yeah. So back to residual waste. I'm assuming that's household and the bins from like all the bins you showed us earlier on.
Yeah,
the map.
black bins. So
actually,
bins,
52% residual waste is not bad in my head, because if you're dealing with all the city centre bins and also recycling as well and all that, you've actually got a lot of things that aren't being recycled, just being chucked, you know, back in the bin. That sort of thing.
With the assessment that was done by Essex Waste Partnership, a large amount of the waste in residual bins is actually food waste, and Love Your Chelmsford are actually doing a pilot at the moment. They're doing an education in, I can't remember where it is. Can you remember where it is, where Love Your Chelmsford are doing their pilot scheme? No.
It's being done.
Yeah.
There's one's planned across Essex for the coming year.
Yeah.
So,
but Love Your Chelmsford are doing a pilot scheme in Chelmsford at the moment. I'll get the details for you and pass it on. And so it's surprising how much food waste is actually put in the residual bin, and that came out in the assessment by the Essex Waste Partnership. They did an assessment of all the bins across the district, and food waste is actually one of the worst culprits or one of the most waste that's put in the residual bin, which can be recycled, but people don't seem to like recycling their waste, their food waste.
I imagine that creates health hazards, though, if you're asking people to dispense food into areas, so things like rats would accumulate in those areas and cause,
I don't get any rats in my garden. I recycle all my food waste.
I'm just generally for schemes in the town centre is all. That's just my concern.
But yeah, anyway. It's education.
Did anyone else have a question? Oh, Councillor Dobson.
Sorry, last but not least. Again, I cannot echo Mike's comment about thanks to the staff, because every time I've had a comment, I've had a query, I've always, everyone's always been very helpful. But I originally had 3 questions, and 2 of them have already been asked. So, just a minor point, really. When you mentioned about the food hygiene visits, you sort of had a bit of a sharp intake of breath at the number, whether it was because of the number 666, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think it was.
But are they sort of ad hoc visits, or are they routine? Does that include routine visits, or are they sort of places that have been flagged up that you need the PHPS to go to?
As far as I'm aware, there's annual visits, but perhaps I'll pass it over to Lewis to actually give you the exact details. Thanks, Lewis.
Yes, so the food hygiene visits, they're done on a programme based on risk. So some businesses might get inspected once a year, some every 2 years. It all depends on how they operate. So yeah, 666 sounds a lot, but there are a lot of food businesses in the district.
Yeah, I was going to ask that actually. Yeah.
You know, that probably is the sort of general number that we would carry out each year, but it all just depends on when these businesses come out of the system based on how often they need to be inspected.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Bless you. Have I got the mic on? And again. Oh, what was the question? Oh, damn you. So we see a lot of businesses on apps like Deliveroo, and they don't necessarily, from what I can gather, have a premise that I've seen in Chelmsford. Are you keeping an eye on those to monitor them for food hygiene as well, or?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact term. I think they're called dark kitchens, something like that. So it's a lot of these businesses operate out of a single premises, but I'll give an example of a pub. They might also be selling, I don't know, pizzas or something, but because it's a pub, they don't want you to think it's coming from a pub, they want you to think it's coming from a pizza company. So a lot of these businesses are operating from the same premises. So yeah, we do know about them, yeah.
Just to say, I mean, I get to say thank you to officers quite a lot because I'm obviously chair of the regulatory committee, but you know, you all do a fabulous job, and I think we're all aware of that.
Are there any other questions? Could I just ask a couple, Councillor Amy? The brown bins, obviously there's still quite a large amount of people that aren't using them anymore. When are they going to be collected? Because a lot of them are still in situ, and it's a complaint I've had.
So all the residents just need to phone into the office. They'll be added to the list, and the bins are being collected. So they need to phone in if they don't require their bin, and they'll be collected. Yeah, yeah.
So it's up to date. If they phone in, how long would they anticipate? Is it fairly quickly?
It's not, yeah, well, if the waiting list, yeah, it's probably a couple of weeks now.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Sorry, these are all based on rubbish. The second one is in terms of fly tipping. We've talked about comparative data. Has there been more fly tipping since we've gone over to the paid for? I kind of shirk at the popular. I think people would say they had no choice. I don't know anyone that sits popular to pay nothing and then pay something, and it's something they welcome. But in terms of that, has there been an increase that you can directly relate to fly tipping?
No.
Has fly tipping changed at all since this has been introduced?
No. Well, there's been 60% uptake anyway in the garden waste properties taking up the garden waste. And also, I think more people are actually composting in their own properties now if they don't want to pay for the garden waste, or doing both. And we've not had any reports of extra fly tipping at all.
So I mean, we've seen it on the news recently where there's been some horrendous examples.
Yeah,
of,
there's more industrial fly tipping rather than.
But we're not seeing that in and around Chelmsford. No. Thank you.
Not from small fly tips. No.
I just have one other question before I introduce somebody else. Is the payment for the garden waste collection, is that an annual one-off, or can it be done halfway through a year, or is it once you haven't bought in at the beginning of the year, do you have to start again, as it were? How does that work? Because again, there was a complaint.
It's an annual charge, and you can take it up at any time throughout the year.
So if you paid halfway through a year, do you pay a full year, or do you pay half?
Yeah,
so
you don't get a discount.
So when is it that you have to buy into it to pay for the whole year?
So people are paying now for the current year, starting from March.
So it starts from March, and you pay prior to March to get the whole year benefit.
Yes,
that's right. Again, it's something that people have asked me as a local council.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
It was just kind of sharing my experience, really, because I do get residents contacting me about fly tipping or concerns. And like Councillor Ely was saying, it tends to be more waste as opposed to garden waste. So it's like industrial type waste. So I wasn't expecting to see an increase in garden waste fly tipping, because that doesn't tend to be what gets reported to me. And I'm happy to say that I haven't, in Molsham and Central, had any examples of garden waste fly tipping.
it's good to hear that we haven't got the fly tipping problems that appear to be everywhere else. That's really positive. Yeah. One more question, Councillor Steele.
Yeah, it's kind of a comment, and it's back to residual waste, right? So, and my knowledge as a county councillor is the intention is that all residual waste will eventually go to incineration and create power, rather than going to landfill. And the quality of the residual waste has an effect on the efficiency of the incinerator. So actually, if it's polluted by recyclables, it can be a problem. So we as a waste collector have to get our heads round getting the quality of residual waste up. Would you agree with that? That's one of the challenges, so that it can be incinerated efficiently.
I actually visited the Endeavour, Rivenhall, and it's really quite interesting. But they do need a certain amount of combustibles in the residual waste for it to work efficiently. So they do. Well, my understanding, I'll probably be corrected by Mr Nicholson, but my understanding is that they do need some plastics and papers and stuff like that for it to be actually to burn efficiently. That was my understanding. I may have got that completely around my neck.
Well, it's an interesting concept, but I had a slightly different view. Sorry, go on.
No, the energy for waste operator would love to have plastic and high calorific value material in there rather than just the so-called residual waste. But the specification that the county have got, with that operator is such that they have to try and remove as much of the recyclable material that might be getting in there, if it isn't taken off curbside, as possible as a pre-treatment, before it goes into the energy for waste plant. The energy for waste plant is specified to run on a wide range of different materials.
I think I had the same impression, because if you get too much of things like paper, then it runs at a higher calorific value, and that can cause a problem if you're trying to keep it low. So, but I got a slightly different take on that.
I mean that won't be a problem for Chelmsford, because we have a very effective curbside separated collection, so we can see all those materials. The issue, as Councillor Ely has said, in Chelmsford is about 25% of our residual waste is food waste, which should be in the separate food waste collection, which is now mandated under the simpler recycling. Even if that 25% of food waste was taken out of the residual waste stream, the energy for waste plant would still function perfectly viably.
I'm going to shut down that questions anymore, because I think we've fairly well had a very comprehensive presentation. Just to echo the thanks to Councillor Ely and the officers involved in all of these activities, because I think Chelmsford does shine in this area, and it's good to have the detail and be able to listen to what you've been up to and what the successes are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll now move on to item 9, the presentation for Safer Chelmsford Partnership. I don't know who will start, Spencer. Would it be yourself? And I should have asked before, but would you prefer questions as we go along or at the end? What's the best way of doing this? Because I know you've got a presentation too. Okay, so we'll hold fire until you've finished your presentations. Thank you.
I'll try and whiz through at pace if I can. I deliberately haven't put many statistics in this because I've left it for the temporary chief inspector to do in his report. And you've had a copy of the police performance report in advance. So for those who don't know me, I think most of you do, my name's Spencer Clark. I'm the Public Protection Manager at the City Council. So I manage the community safety function for Chelmsford City Council and Malden District. Oh, sorry. Didn't have my title up there, didn't I? So first thing I'm going to talk about, the Community Safety Partnership isn't just Chelmsford City Council, it's also Essex County Council, Essex Police, the Probation Service, Essex Fire and Rescue Service and the Integrated Care Board, i.e. Health. So we work together to agree priorities. So the priorities you see up there are the priorities for this current year. We're working on what's called our strategic assessment at the moment. That's where we have various data sets and score what we call a crime risk matrix. I should imagine the priorities will be very similar to what's up there now, but that will be agreed or endorsed by the One Chelmsford board early in March once it's presented to them. Thought I'd say a little bit about antisocial behaviour, because I know that's a topic for many areas and what we do. So team deals with neighbour nuisance, so that can be anything from noise, cannabis odour, dangerous dogs or domestic waste. But we also deal with a lot of the things that happen in public places, like rough sleeping, aggressive begging, street drinking, things around the city centre and nighttime economy, and then our seasonal issues around summer hotspots and parks and open spaces. A few things about our tools and powers that we have. We've had public space protection orders in the city centre since 2016, and various things we can do around that. You'll see they're listed there. And then the other measures that we use are things like community protection warnings, notices, which then can be escalated finally to a criminal behaviour order. And I know a temporary chief inspector is going to say a little bit about that as we move on tonight. We also have dispersal orders, antisocial behaviour case reviews, closure orders and noise abatement notices. So we've got a range of powers which are available to us, and these are changed in 2014, which has made things a lot more flexible for councils to deal with matters. As I said earlier, the key to what we do is around partnership. We have a really good community safety partnership hub. It is the envy of most of Essex. So whenever people come along to look at a hub, they usually come to Chelmsford. And the way we work is we have a monthly meeting with all of our partners in our hub. There's usually about 30 to 35 partners from various agencies turn up. And then I have fortnightly police tasking led by the inspector. So we keep on top of the operational matters as well. CCTV is a very effective tool to use in partnership working. I can't sing more highly of the CCTV team. We deal with about 8,000 to 9,000 incidents a year, which generally lead to about 600 arrests. And not only do we use it in the city centre, we are spreading out to other areas as well. You'll see that we do the joint patrols with police and other agencies, visits, enforcement and bedding sweeps. In the picture there, you'll see outside the Shah Hall in Tyndall Square, that's a session we're doing with the Chelmsford Against Slavery Partnership. So we do a lot of work around modern day slavery and human trafficking and informing people how we can improve their lives. So you'll see that that's Dan, Dan Pratt, who's our chap who works for the Chelmsford Against Slavery Partnership. And also the work we do around Operation Guardian, where each year we get additional funding from the PFCC's office via the Home Office, and that's based on hotspots. The hotspot for this year, we've got 2 in Chelmsford, both in the city centre, but that gives us additional resource to do more partnership patrols. One of the things we'll be adding this year is we're going to have a summer engagement hub based in the Shah Hall. So on Thursday afternoons, throughout the summer months, we'll have that summer engagement hub up and running. I'm just going to touch on some of our strategic duties. One of the new duties, when I say new, it came in about 2 years ago, is the serious violence duty. And this is an area where we've made some real progress. So what we have to do is we have to do a strategic needs assessment and a local profile. And fortunately, this is delivered by the Essex Violence and Vulnerability Unit, who come along to do a presentation a couple of years ago to the Scrutiny Committee. I'm the Essex representative on the operations board for that, so cascade information out to the other councils in Essex. Chelmsford, so I get a really informative monthly data pack on Power BI, which tells us things like the trends in what's happening, the most prolific wards where serious violence is happening, and what the influence is from cross-border areas, things like county lines and things like that. Pleased to inform you that we're in a much better place than where we were last year. We actually get, obviously one offence is too many, but 0.38 offences per 1,000 of population is a really good place. We're at the lower end of Essex, so places like Southend and Basildon are up the sort of top end, almost one offence per 1,000 population. And compared to this period last year, that's a 28.3% decrease in serious violence, which is a really good place to be. Our district rank in terms of where most of the offences happen wouldn't be surprising to you is Molsham and Central, because it's our city centre, where we had 22 offences in the last year. I think when I updated members last year, it was double that. So we've actually, in our most prolific ward, half the amount in the space of a year. Most of suspects who cause serious violence, you see 62% of them are from Chelmsford. So we've got less influence from county lines. So thankfully, I think the police must be doing something good there by making Chelmsford a more hostile place to come in terms of committing crime. And this is seen as best practice by the Home Office. So I've actually got a meeting with some consultants from the Home Office on Friday to discuss why we've had such a good achievement in reduction in serious violence. One of the other duties I want to touch on is the prevent duty. It's another duty which we have to report to. I chair the Essex Prevent Delivery Group, so oversee a lot of the involvement around Essex. So it used to be a little bit messy when you got 15 councils doing different things. So we all do the same thing across Essex now, which is really good. We produce what's called a situational risk assessment and a partnership plan. And we also get information from our local region. So it's a bit, Essex comes under Bedfordshire when it comes to prevent and counter terrorism. So we get information from all areas like Suffolk, Norfolk, Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire and Essex. I report back to Safer Essex once a year, which Councillor Ely attends. And also report back to the local contest board and the Essex Chief Execs once a year. So Mr Evely gets a report along with the other Chief Execs on what's happening around Prevent. One of the new things we set up in the last year is EPEG, which is Essex Permissive Environments Group, which meets on a as and when basis. It will be meeting soon to discuss some of the issues we've got around local protests which are happening and causing some community tensions. Last year, when as part of my role as chair, we also had to meet with the Home Office and do our benchmarking. Last year we were exceeding in all areas apart from one, which was communications, but we were duty met in that area, and it enables us to get some funding from the Home Office for a county council hosted post. So when we meet the Home Office on the 12th of March, we'd like to think we might be in a position to be exceeding in all areas. On Wednesday, we have a session at Colchester United Football Club with a lot of our voluntary services and community leaders. So what we're trying to do is push out the Prevent message into the community, working with CBSs and places like that. More locally in Chelmsford, we do a lot more around comms. We put out an e-bulletin where we've got about 9,000, over 9,000 subscribers to our e-news bulletin. And we have what's called our independent advisory group, where we have community leaders from most sectors of the community who we work with. We also brief senior leaders and elected members and upskill staff and members on training opportunities. As Councillor Ely said, she introduced her to SIGSI, which is a special interest group in countering extremism. And we've been doing some local sessions with parents around misinformation and disinformation. One of the biggest issues at the moment is tackling community tensions, and number of protests we've been dealing with and the social cohesion issues that come alongside that. And also useful to note that the local approach of ACT is Action Counts as Terrorism, and how we'll be implementing the findings of Martin's Law once the official government guidance comes out on that. A little bit about the evening economy. I don't need to say any more about Purple Flag because Councillor Ely's done a bit on Purple Flag. Managed to get my own back by assessing Nottingham just before Christmas, so I've been sort of taken on as a Purple Flag assessor for other areas. So that was quite a lively place to go. We've also been doing a lot more improved work with Chelmsford Bid. The Bid employed some consultants about 6 months ago, so we've actually got an evening nighttime economy action plan, and I attend the experience group and work alongside the business crime coordinator there. So I don't need to say much more about Nights of Action. Our cabinet members be out on a number of our Nights of Action where we work alongside various partners, and you can see there we've got plenty of pictures there of people working together, Operation Guardian, Operation Vigilant, and we do a lot of work around Freshers Week, sort of advising young people around things like drink spiking. We've had a continued investment in CCTV, completed the capital replacement programme about July last year, so everything's been upgraded around that, and we're making improvements to lighting in some of the areas. And I'm just highlighting some of the partnership work there. It's from various groups, so you've got Public Health and Protection Services, parking enforcement, the neighbourhood and local policing teams, CCTV, youth workers, Essex Fire and Rescue, the night marshals, and our open road SOS bus. So a lot of work goes into the nighttime economy. A little bit about some of the interventions we do. So as I say, the team also looks after safeguarding. So things like referrals and signposting to outreach services. I've already spoken about modern day slavery, working with some of our homeless charities, our drug and alcohol charities, mental health and social care, and then the work we do around early intervention and prevention. You'll see a lot of the street art projects around Chelmsford, which we get involved in. Each year we go to Chelmsford College, spend a week or two speaking to students at Chelmsford College about anything from misogyny to alcohol, knife crime, etc. And we have a company called Achieve, Thrive and Flourish, who deliver their Positive Futures programme. So they're currently delivering in Highland School. Last year we delivered at Molsham School. Molsham liked it so much they're funding it themselves this year. So it's really made a difference around that. I'll say a little bit more about Make Space for Girls, working with Keep It 100, Active Essex, and we've been fortunate enough to get quite a sizable amount of funding from the Essex Police Fire and Crime Commissioner through the Safer Streets programme for various projects throughout Chelmsford and Southwood and Ferris. So a little bit about Make Space for Girls. As Councillor Easley says, been doing a lot of work around this, and it's really been gaining traction. So initially funded by the PFCC Safer Streets Fund, but the project we've more recently done in Southwood and Ferris was funded by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So the way we do this is we work with a charity, Make Space for Girls, and their consultants, Social Place. And initially, we done an urban, rural and destination place to look at. So the urban one was Central Park, which I'll show you a picture of the completed project there. The rural one was Angel Meadow in Brimfield, where we were last week. We'll soon be delivering that particular one and linking it in with the concrete canvas works, which are happening in May. And the destination one was originally the Promenade Park in Malden. To say I work across 2 areas. Since then, we've done a consultation with the William de Ferris School in South Woodham, who will be feeding back to us in early March. And I've done another project with Ormiston Rivers Academy in Burnham-on-Crouch. It's a really good example of community participation and youth voice, but also has the wider public health benefits around young people using green spaces, so the obvious mental health support around that, and tackling things like teenage obesity. The most inspiring thing, as Councillor Easley says, when we first meet these young people, and it's usually year 9, they're quite shy people, and when they come back to do their showcase to parents, guardians and key partners, we've had them sitting at the front here like little mini politicians. So the chance of them going to the members to Parliament in July is going to be quite inspiring for them. We've also done presentations on the work to the Home Office, the MHCLG and Active Essex. And this time last year, we were the winner of the Inspiring Future Generation Awards. In this room, we've had a funded county learning event, so we're trying to spread this across Essex and beyond. Future funded projects is more work with the PFCC. We've recently got a small grant from Active Essex, and there's funding in for approval by Chelmsford Seal. And a really important one at the bottom here, this is almost like when I say my work is done, is that we're looking at master planning projects. So we've been meeting with the East Chelmsford Garden community. They want to make sure that that community area is designed with women and girls in mind. We've met with them initially and have another meeting at Essex Police Headquarters next month. So we're hoping to move those forward in the coming years. So what do the young people want from these projects? And these are the 3 things that really come up. Safety, inclusion and social interaction. When we meet with these young people, they never expect these projects to come to fruition. So it's really important that we do achieve that. This is the one which is in Central Park, the completed project. Ooh, I don't know what happened there. So this is one in Central Park. These sun lounges were chosen by the young people. The colours were chosen by the young people. The flowers that come out in spring were chosen by the young people. There's also, what you don't see there is in the far corner there's also a colour changing lamp. So if you go there at night time, you've got these really wonderful colours which shine on the area. And it's a really lovely project designed by young people, not just used by women and girls, because I know if you go there after park run, people grab a coffee and make a free-for-all for these sun lounges. So really widely used by the whole community, but designed by young people. And when we work with young people, what they really want is a hangout space, somewhere to hang out. There's loads of places for boys to hang out. You've got skate parks, you've got Muga-style pitches, you've got play areas for under 12s, but not a lot for young girls to do. So we're trying to make an impact by changing this across Essex. Just saying a little bit on the work we're doing, have been doing around women's safety. First campaign come out in 2023. You'll see that I mean, tackling violence against women and girls. Just recently, the UK have put out a government strategy on that. So lots of wider work going around that. What we've done in Chelmsford was we had our initial charter in 2023 and second video campaign which came out in 2024 around active bystandership. Really, I mean, the social media response to those 2 projects and the work we've done around Make Space for Girls about this time last year had over 100,000 hits on social media. So when you're trying to change people's behaviour by nudging them, it's a really good way of doing that. And this model's being replicated across Essex and beyond. We're doing a bit of a relaunch, a refresh of the Women's Safety Charter this spring. So on the Monday after International Women's Day, we'll be out in the city centre for a couple of days going back round to businesses making sure they're doing what they've agreed to do, and more importantly, signing more up. Project Minerva is a bit of work we've done with Nottingham and Trent University. So the whole of Essex, we can map violence against women for the last 6 years on different areas of the whole of Essex. In December, we added a new area to that around antisocial behaviour. So we can actually map antisocial behaviour, not just police data, but also our own data, which had been uploaded onto it. And again, the main key for doing this work has been around communications and our social media reach, trying to challenge narratives. A lot of work around intervention, the spike in education I spoke about earlier, the Knights of Action, the Night Marshals who were initially funded by the bid. We've taken that up for the remainder of the financial year, and we're hoping to get some more funding for that for the following year. We also do regular walkabouts, sometimes with elected members, to check lighting and engage with the community. And as I said earlier about the Operation Guardian and Vigilant, which we deliver in partnership with the police. This was the second campaign we brought out around active bystandership. Again, used that similar model around that. I'll pause there for questions now. I've got through as quick as I could, Chair.
Do we want the police presentation before questions? Because it might get answered by some of the
That's
things.
okay with.
Shall we go for that then? That's great. Leads us nicely into the presentation from the Chief Inspector. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully that's working okay. I'm Grant Fryer. I'm current Chief Inspector and District Commander for Chelmsford and Maldon District. Right. So I'll just give you an overview. Within local policing, we have 2 work streams. We have the local policing team, which is our 24/7 response team, based out of Chelmsford, obviously at New Street, which has 5 teams, each with an inspector, 2 sergeants each, and then spread approximately 80 constables over that. There we go. And then we also have the neighbourhood policing team, which operates out of the hub alongside Spencer's team. And there we have Sergeant Sarah Jeans and Charlotte Lawrence, who run the 2 neighbourhood policing teams with approximately 22 constables and 5 PCSOs, alongside the Chelmsford Town Centre policing team supervised by PS Graham Thomas, with about 8 PCs and 3 PCSOs. And then, although this is more Chelmsford focused, we also then have the dedicated team over at Maldon, run by Sergeant Dolby, with 7 PCs and 1 PCSO. And obviously, ultimately, as one team, they do support each other. Okay.
It's really difficult to read the slides. We haven't got them.
You haven't got the data.
Need to adjust the contrast, don't we?
I can probably read from those.
Yeah. I'll read them out. Yeah. This is just a summary of some of the data. So, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail. So, over the 12-month period to January 2026, District has seen an 8.1% decrease in all crime. It has seen a reduction of 5.5% in antisocial behaviour over the last 12 months. However, the solve rate, so that's how much crime we're solving, has increased by 3.3%, up to 18.4%. And burglary dwelling has seen a reduction of 29.3%, and burglary non-dwelling, so that's things like sheds and other properties, a reduction of 68.4%. This one is not one that you're going to be able to read out, but that is an overview of all of the crime. You've shared that, haven't you? Yeah. So Spencer has kindly already shared that. That is an overview of all the crime. You've got 3 main columns there to consider. You've got the offences, and I'm sure some of the councillors will appreciate there is a comparison there between this year and last year. As with all things, it's sometimes difficult to compare year on year, and certainly if we go back too many years to compare, we have things like COVID which skew data, but that is a year-to-date comparison, so hopefully that's helpful for councillors. And then you've got your solved outcomes, so that's how many offences we've solved, and the solved rate, so the percentage of crimes. But yes, it is too small for me to go into any further detail on that. This has worked. I'm not very good at this, am I? There we go. Again, it's not massive. So this is our Q3 2025-26 Public Perception Survey. This is an area that has been difficult for us, but you can see we've got comparisons going back to 2018. I'll go through each one, but I appreciate you might be still struggling because the contrast on there doesn't look brilliant. So the first box is confidence in local policing. And unfortunately, we've seen a reduction in this between 24 to 25, from 65% to 53%. So despite some of the great statistics that we're solving more crime and there is less of it, unfortunately, at the minute, the public don't have as much confidence in us. There's a small decrease in the next one, which is the importance of regular uniformed police presence. So that's how people feel about the importance of actually seeing police officers, and again that is reduced, so the public feel they need to see less of us, which is an unusual statistic. That's down 66 to 63. The next one down is the Essex Police understanding the issues that affect your community, and again between 24 to 25 that's reduced from 55 to 50%. And then we have Essex Police are dealing with crime and antisocial behaviour, which has seen a reduction from 50 to 46% over the year period. Next one is confidence in receiving a good service from Essex Police has seen a reduction from 68% in 24 to 60% in 25. Police in the area are doing a good or excellent job, has gone from 74% to 70%. Field crime and antisocial behaviour have become more of a problem over the past 12 months, has risen from 32% to 42%, albeit, if you remember the earlier statistic, I said there is less of it. And feel informed about what the police are doing in my area has gone from 40% to 38%. So as you can see, there are some challenges there in the public perception, despite the excellent works of my teams, the reductions in crimes, the excellent work that we've seen from Spencer's team through the Community Safety Partnership. At the minute, some of that message isn't getting through, and that is obviously a challenge for us to try and work out how we can better communicate some of that work to hopefully improve the confidence that the public have in us and the job we are doing, because the statistics say we are doing a good job, but unfortunately the public aren't seeing that at the minute. So, tackling community issues. So antisocial behaviour is down in Chelmsford by 5.5%, which is a reduction of 61 incidents in the 12 months to January 2026. This success is brought about through a robust and multi-agency approach, including the Nights of Action with the community safety partners, CCTV, licensing and the parking teams. We've had target operations around reducing antisocial behaviour, and in particular around the bus stop and train station areas, also working alongside our partners such as BTP. Through community protection notices, arrests, convictions and CBOs, we've reduced aggressive persistent begging, street drinking and the antisocial behaviour that comes with that in the city centre. And we now have 18 CBOs obtained within the district. And for those that like statistics, this presentation last year would have given the figure of 12. So we have increased the amount of CBOs over the past year, which is obviously going to support that work around reducing antisocial behaviour and crime, especially in the city centre. Vehicle crime, which is a really good statistic there, we've seen a reduction of 47.6%, which is 520 less offences committed through, committed with vehicles, and that's through regular proactive operations, targeting known offenders and preventative activities, with a keen focus for local policing team during the year. And one example of that has been Op Dice, which was a large-scale operation where we charged 7 nominals with multiple thefts and conspiracies. And obviously that has really supported the work we've done there. Okay, the slides are slightly out from where I are, however, I won't need to go too much into that one. That is obviously the Essex Police Force Plan, which obviously just gives details of our current priorities. Obviously that's up till 2026, so at some point this year we will see a refresh of that as we go forward. And hopefully now we go to the slide that I've got here. So how we're applying that, so we're risk assessing all antisocial behaviour incidents and grading them with an emphasis on personal, nuisance and environmental antisocial behaviour. There is currently a big review around antisocial behaviour going on within the force to ensure it's aligned with the new neighbourhood policing guarantee. So over the year we're going to see a lot more work around that, which is going to include additional training for staff. So that's going to be a real focus for this year as part of that guarantee. Obviously, lots of work tackling shoplifting within the city centre, proactive targeting of vehicle theft and identifying the perpetrators. Obviously, we have the dedicated town centre team and close liaison with our neighbourhood watch teams to ensure that we're getting all the information we need and understand what's going on in the communities. We're obviously working with our partners to reduce homelessness in the city centre. Regular operations in and around Chelmsford targeting antisocial behaviour and especially around vehicles and speeding, which is a particular issue. It's even more prevalent in the Malden district, but Chelmsford does suffer from it as well. And obviously we also work with our operational support group, road policing teams, as part of the operational policing command on dedicated operations around that. We are delivering weapons awareness presentations, explaining the dangers of knife crime and possession of offensive weapon offences, holding knife arch events at the schools, the colleges and the university, community engagement events with the local primary and secondary schools, colleges, youth clubs to help offer and support the children and young adults, and continue with and develop new initiatives to support mental health and well-being. Arrests made in Chelmsford in the last year, and I do have last year's figures as well for anyone who likes the comparison. Over the past 12 months, Chelmsford Neighbourhood Policing Team and the local policing team have arrested 2,320 people for 3,749 offences. This does not include arrests by specialist departments or investigative teams, so therefore arrests made by our road policing teams, by our domestic abuse teams, by our operational support group and other more specialist teams, child abuse, they are not included in these figures. However, we've got 270 arrests for drug-related offences, 1,204 arrests for offences against the person, so that's sort of assault-related offences, 177 arrests for public disorder, 598 for theft-based offences, 134 for offences involving weapons, 286 arrests for offences against the property, 446 offences related to police, court or prison offences, 132 arrests for sexual offences and 32 offences for fraud-linked offences. Shoplifting. So there has been a 1.9% increase in shoplifting over the past 12 months. However, national recording shows shoplifting up 20%. So although it is a small increase, and obviously me and my teams don't want to see an increase, we are a long way off from where that national trend is, and so it's important, and obviously 24 to 25 actually being the highest figures recorded since 2002 and 2003, and I'm sure all members will agree. We're probably living in very different times. The Chelmsford team and our business crime team have worked tirelessly with the local businesses and partners agencies to reduce shoplifting in the city centre, and it will remain a focus. This is done through targeting prolific and repeat offenders, securing convictions, and of course those criminal behaviour orders on many of the individuals, in order to tackle the most serious and persistent offenders, but also to support victims and perpetrators. Officers of the neighbourhood police team and town centre teams mounted a regular plainclothes operation to tackle shoplifting, and that utilised support from our business crime officers who spoke with retailers about their concerns and identified ways of improving store security and staff safety. We also work closely with the BID to ensure crime prevention and reporting, to make sure we've got accurate data and we know where the problems are. Community engagement. Chelmsford community engagement officers and child and young persons officers hold regular talks and lessons with children and young adults to discuss a whole range of issues to help keep them safe, well informed when making decisions. From primary schools to higher places of higher education, we discuss crime prevention, personal safety and the dangers of drug use and carrying weapons. We hold fraud seminars with community groups and at local banks to educate and protect the public from falling victim to frauds and scams. Chelmsford and Malden's CSEOs have very strong links with our local places of worship and faith communities. We hold weekly and monthly Let's Talk events at St Andrew's Parish Church in Chignell Road, the St Michael's and All Angels Church, Roxwell, and we regularly attend the Muslim Society Mosque in Chelmsford City Centre and Hampton Sports and Leisure Centre. The MPT work closely with the Jewish community, and the CSEOs, Superintendent Huddeston and myself attended the Holocaust Memorial commemoration on the 29th of January. Essex Police work tirelessly with our partners to increase hate crime awareness, improve confidence, so that people can speak freely about hate crime, and obviously we work closely with the IAGs on that, and I'm in regular contact with them myself. Chelmsford Community Safety Engagement Officers continue to run the On Your Team, bringing local men together to play sport and lend support. The initiative focuses on areas such as emotional health and well-being, social isolation, suicide prevention, and takes a proactive approach to those at risk of exploitation, hate crime and violence against women and girls, poor mental health and high risk of domestic abuse. We actively encourage the community to report matters up to us to build intelligence around what's happening in the community and to allow us to respond to concerns. Burglaries reduced in 2025, so in the past 12 months, that 29.2% reduction is 192 offences. And I think all people agree 192 homes not burgled is a great figure, but obviously we want that to be even less burglaries. We've carried out targeted patrols and operations to break the trend, and have also been working closely with partners, Neighbourhood Watch and the community to educate the public around prevention and property security, and that includes holding numerous Let's Talks events in vulnerable areas to support effective communities. Those Let's Talk events provide high visibility patrols, crime prevention advice and crime prevention merchandise. Vehicle crime. So as I said earlier, vehicle crime has dropped by 47.6%, a reduction of 520 offences. Theft of motor vehicles has dropped by 53.8%, which is a decrease of 293 offences, so a good proportion of that vehicle crime, which again is a really good statistic. To target this, the community safety officers and the CSP have held engagement events where crime prevention advice and merchandise is offered, along with offering advice via the weekly dispatch and on social media, and continue to encourage people to sign up for dispatch to get the latest advice on how you can reduce crime. We're also working with our Neighbourhood Watch to ensure that the messages are delivered wider in the community. Tackling speeding. And speeding is one of those issues close to my heart. I spent 11 years as a road policing officer, doing all the things that you would imagine a road policing officer ends up doing. The the neighbourhood policing team conducted joint agency patrols reacting to complaints of speeding across the district, focusing on driving down casualties on the road and reducing antisocial behaviour. And obviously this work is also supported by our wider operational policing command. Chelmsford MPT have reacted to speeding complaints in Baddow, Channels, Bewley, Hanningfield, Waltham, Stock, Pleshy, Runwell and Southwood and Ferrers, with speed checks carried out to reassure the public, deter drivers from speeding and keep the public safe. We have worked alongside partners including Highways, the CSP, Safer Essex Road Partnership and local councils to carry out speed checks. Vision Zero has been adopted by Safer Essex Road Partnership with the aspiration that no one will die or be seriously injured on the road on Essex roads by 2040. We've worked with the Safety Partnership to give school children the opportunities to learn about the dangers of speeding drivers and children to educate offenders, and that includes some speed checks where children end up talking to those that get stopped, which is really impactful way to deliver it, being told off by, a 10-year-old. We have also worked closely with our neighbourhood watch coordinators to help educate the community and tackle speeding, in particular in places like Cold, Norton. Example of drugs enforcement. So drugs are obviously one of those challenging crimes, but as Spencer alluded to, we have done a lot of work to ensure that we aren't targeted by those county lines. We conduct regular proactive drug warrants and celebrate our successes on social media to ensure the community knows we are listening and responding to their concerns. And this is a great one that literally occurred over the weekend. Warrant was executed, resulting in the discovery of a large and sophisticated cannabis cultivation setup across multiple outbuildings containing plants from cuttings to mature crops, and around 20 half-kilo bags of dried cannabis ready for distribution. There was a significant electricity bypass identified, which obviously required specialist support to resolve that. The follow-on search recovered £100,000 in concealed cash, which has obviously been seized under POCA, and the individual made a spontaneous comment and gave a no-comment interview. So they've been released under investigation while we continue the rest of our work there. However, we've got plenty of evidence to move forward. And there's just a snapshot there to provide a little round to the drugs. And then again, we've got the same columns: offences, solved outcomes and solved rates. I don't believe that appears in the earlier slide, just because that's a state-based offence. And I'm sure there will be. Me and Spencer will do our best to answer between the two.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much for your presentations. And probably the most striking thing is what you flagged about the difference between public perception and statistics that you're showing going in opposite directions.
Yep.
And of course, you're not alone in this, whether it's people who work in politics or religious institutions and all this lot. It seems to be becoming harder to command people's confidence, and people are more exacting. I mean, do you find people are sort of saying to you, well, actually, the reason your crime stats are going down is because, well, we've given up reporting stuff? Is it, are you finding you're getting that sort of message from people? Are you struggling to persuade them that this is a genuine reduction in crime and not just people giving up on institutions and just not reporting?
It's never possible to measure the unknown. So I could never give an exact answer to that. Policing in general, and obviously society nowadays, social media is a big driver, and of course there have been significant national events. Some of that plays out locally, even though the policing may not have occurred locally. National policing events, national politics can play out in how the police are perceived, and therefore impacts how the public perceive us. But that doesn't necessarily match what is occurring locally.
Thank you. But to be clear, you're convinced that there's been a genuine drop in crime, and it's not just. So do you know what I mean? That these are genuine drops. There's less crime going on, and it's a perception problem. Am I clear that that's absolutely?
Yes. Yeah. In terms of contact in and reports of crime to our contact centres, to our call centres, I don't believe there's any significant reduction in the level of demand we have, and therefore I do believe there is a reduction in crime.
Councillor Steele, I think you had a question.
Thank you. Partially to do with perception, but I will make one comment because I've been looking into it. Do you know, I mean, TV programmes have a 100% success rate in solving crime. You're kind of competing with that, aren't you, in a way, which is difficult. But on perception, people complain about illegal scooters. So I'm going to ask you, how many illegal scooters have you confiscated in the last year? That's question number one. Or people get very upset when an illegal scooter shoots past them in the centre of Chelmsford. The other thing is, in terms of speeding, Malden do TrueCam, and it's run by the district council, not police officers. So it's a way of detecting speeding and prosecuting for it, as I'm sure you know. And it's not like Speed Watch where you don't get prosecuted, but it relieves police officers having to do it. Have you got any comment on that? And do you not think it's something that Chelmsford City Council might consider doing? Or maybe that's for Spencer. And the last question was the drop in vehicle crimes. That's a dramatic loss. Why is that? Why is there such a big drop in vehicle crime? That's
okay. I'll try and go through your questions as I can remember them. I might need a small prompt. I don't have the number of scooters seized immediately to hand, so I'll have to get you that. So yeah, I will follow up on that because I don't know the number to hand.
It's more the feeling, do you stop illegal scooters?
Yeah, so we do targeted operations. It is a difficult area, but we have done targeted operations in the city centre to target these scooters because they are a problem. They're a problem that certainly some of the councillors come to me for. I've had complaints from some of the members of Parliament about scooters. They are a persistent issue. The problem is they are easily bought on Amazon and websites like that, and therefore as quick as we can seize them, you are able to replace them with relatively low cost replacements, and therefore they are difficult to ever stop, unfortunately. So we will always see, for every one we see, someone else will just go out and buy one because they're low cost. We live in that sort of society, don't we? So a very difficult issue to deal with, but we continue to do targeted operations around them, which involves both uniform and plainclothes officers. TrueCam. So Malden is very unique. I believe it's actually the only authority in the country that is operating that. However, yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? As I said during my presentation, I spent 11 years on road policing, so I have been to all of the grim things that you imagine that a road policing officer does. I've done all of those knocks on the door. I was a family liaison officer, so reducing speeding, the answer is yes, it's something that should be done. But that would be something for Spencer and his team to put together. But the contacts are there in Malden, aren't they?
Councillor Ely.
It's not as easy as you think to get TrueCam in your area. Southwold and Ferrers has tried, the Town Council has tried, but you have to have certain stretches of road and certain areas, so it's not as easy to get TrueCam in your parish areas as you would think.
Well, I do have some experience of using TrueCam because actually Malden will hire out their people and they'll use designated speech watch sites to come along and do it, and they'll only do it if there is a set number of speedsters, if there's actually a high success rate. So if Malden can do it, I'd be asking why can't Chelmsford City Council do it? I know the parishes in Chelmsford can hire Malden, but obviously there's a queue, so it will be, people would love to see something like that coming from us as well.
I think Spencer's going to try and answer that question.
No, I think we had a similar question last year. So yes, we do, with my Malden hat on, we do deliver TrueCam. It's a paid service, so we've got 18 parish councils who pay to deliver that service. Malden's got a very, very low crime rate. I think probably its most challenging thing is road safety and irresponsible driving. That's why Malden pays a particular attention to that type of crime. I think following last year's question, Malden Council do provide the TrueCam service for a few parish councils in Chelmsford as a result of that. What we also done is lobbied around the Operation Guardian money, and we did question whether irresponsible driving was a type of antisocial behaviour. So funding did come down across Essex for additionality around doing road safety enforcement by that team through the Operation Guardian channel. And the other thing which is quite pleasing, at the Essex Police Strategic Assessment setting, which was last month, Ma'am Nolan, who chairs that, one of the new priorities is around killed and seriously injured and the roads. So now that's a priority in the Essex Police Strategic Assessment. There will be more funding and more operational control going towards road safety. So it's not just Malden District Council delivers that. It's still delivered by the Safer Essex Roads Partnership, but it's additionality which is done by Malden District Council because it is their #1 priority. And if you ask the members of the public every year, that will come up as their #1 priority because of its rurality and things like the Lower Burnham Road and the number of KSIs we have on the roads in Malden.
Thank you. And I think the last one was the great drop in vehicle crime.
So obviously we've done some really good work around that. Some of that work is around awareness, and that's obviously, in terms of, let's go simply with stolen vehicles. Technology moves on, and technology is making vehicles harder to steal. Criminals do try and keep up with that, but the manufacturers do as well. So as technology and as we move forward with each year, we are seeing better and better technology, but we're also seeing better awareness. I remember, 20 years ago, lots of people would have steering wheel locks. They kind of went out of fashion, really, and people stopped doing them because cars had improved in technology and they had alarms in immobilisers. Criminals have found a way around immobilisers and are able to get into vehicles, particularly those keyless vehicles, where you don't actually need to put the physical key in. So lots of people and lots of awareness has gone back into actually people having physical security again, and you now see those physical devices again. In terms of keyless thefts, obviously, again, that's where awareness has really come into it, where at one point lots of people were getting, vehicles stolen via keyless thefts, often surmised by, the Ring doorbell footage where there'll be somebody who will come up to your front door and they'll be waving scanners around while somebody is near the car. That is to try and replicate the signal from the key that's inside your house. Again, some of the work we've done, part of when I talked in the presentation about we giving out merchandise, one of those items of merchandise that's been given out are what are called Faraday pouches. I'm not a technological person, but a Faraday pouch effectively is a small pouch you can put your car key in and it prevents that signal being transmitted. So by educating the public, both ourselves, the partnerships, and there we go. Thank you, Councillor Ely. She has, as if we could have planned that, couldn't we, has demonstrated her Faraday pouch there. And of course, initiatives like that reduce the chance of stealing a vehicle. And therefore, all of that work goes together. And there's also lots of work been done around actually how we detect and recover vehicles. vehicle technology with trackers, and we have, good success rate with that. And actually, again, work at the ports. So where high-value vehicles are stolen, obviously not so much for ourselves, but, districts that have large commercial ports, places like Kent or the port of Tilbury, which obviously has its own separate police force, but we link with them. There's lots of work being done around identifying what that cargo is to prevent those vehicles being stolen. It reduces the economic benefit of that crime, and actually people move to other crime types because it's made it more difficult. So I think it's a combination. We can't take sole credit, but certainly we'll take some. Yeah, you're right.
Councillor Clark, I think you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Chair. So going back to cycling and illegal scooters, have you actually got a strategy to deal with those as such?
The strategy is that we will continue to do targeted operations. Obviously, there are two types of scooters. There are the legal ones that the council has approved, the legal ones that the council has approved as part of the scheme, and that is obviously managed. And then there are the illegal ones. Both present different problems. The strategy is that we will keep targeting those. Our roads policing unit will continue to target those, but we need to physically see them because they're not registered. We can't, unlike speeding or, speed cameras, CCTV, all you're going to see is probably, certainly with illegal ones, is generally a black scooter, often an individual that is not going to be identifiable. So it's very difficult to target individuals because actually they're just bought by people sometimes that just want to go to work. Unfortunately, they don't realise when they buy those devices they're illegal. And so obviously, as part of our community safety work, we are educating the public around that they are illegal and that actually you can get points on your licence. So for those of us that are older that have driving licence, there is potentially an impact. For youngsters using them, the impact is less. They don't have a licence to lose. They don't have a licence to get points on. And of course, then you get the issue of actually we've got to get hold of them first as well. But the strategy is we will keep trying to educate the public. We will keep working with the colleges, the schools around that. But also we will continue with the enforcement activity around trying to get hold of them and certainly get hold of the illegal ones. And I know there's been issues with antisocial behaviour around the scheme ones, and we continue to work on that. And I'm, doing some work with Essex County Council around at the minute because we've had quite a lot of complaints around it.
Thank you. And a separate question, ATF, Spencer. You said you've approached a number of schools. I mean, how are you approaching them, and have you had much feedback from those schools? Because you said you got into the Highlands was quite successful, you said, and one at Molsham have funded their own version, but obviously there's a lot more than just those two schools in the area. So
the initial scheme we done last year was Molsham School. So ATF are a provider which we've been funded through the Essex Violence and Vulnerability Unit. So the funding for that project was from elsewhere. We work with schools who are probably either we have a good relationship with previous work with or have reached out to help. So, we worked with Molsham initially. The project went well. It was only funded for, I think, the 12-week term. This year, Highlands reached out to us, so we're working with Highlands this year. But Molsham saw the worth in the project last year with their students, so they've funded it themselves this year. I mean, obviously, if there's a never-ending pot of funding, and we had a giant community safety team, we'd work with every school possible. But, most schools in Chelmsford district are pretty well performing, so that's the project we're running this year. Hopefully, this coming financial year, we'll be able to access that grant funding again, and we'll probably work with another school.
Has anybody else got any questions? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair. Like most councillors that have wards in parish areas, I spend a lot of time talking to the parish councils. And two of them recently have said to me they have invited neighbourhood policing team to come and speak at their council, but they haven't had any response. So that's just a feedback for you on why you might be unpopular with people if they don't think they're asking questions and no one's coming back to them. But the other thing that came up actually was on last week I went to the garden community and they'd had some car crime and offered police doorbell footage and were told we weren't interested. That again, feedback. I'm surprised, to be honest. Fairly reasonable quality with doorbell. They can do something. Just that. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Obviously, I can't comment on those specific incidents. However, obviously, I can give you my details and I can follow up on those to understand why that's occurred, because obviously that's not what I want to hear.
Anybody else got a question? Can I just ask one on the crime stats you provided? There was something that kind of bothered me was the solved rate for stalking. Bearing in mind how stalking can lead to so many other things, it seems very low considering most people reporting it would be reporting somebody they probably know who is doing it. It just puzzled me a bit. It's about 14%.
Yeah, so stalking and harassment, the majority of that is going to come under domestic violence. Domestic violence is an issue that we could talk about all night, and it's a very challenging area for us to sort of manage, really, because we need to continue to get the support of victims, despite people reporting it, to see through to a positive outcome is very challenging, because what you're delving into there is often very deep, long-standing personal relationships. It's an area we continue to work on. Obviously, we have a dedicated domestic violence unit. I delivered a presentation to the IAG a couple of weeks ago that was quite in-depth around domestic violence. I probably couldn't go into that here, no, just because we'd probably be here till about 11 o'clock at night. However, it is an area, you're right to point it out, it is an area we continue to work on and focus on, not only with ourselves but with partners, because it's actually through some of the specialist support groups that by engaging them with victims, we're able to maintain that support to see successful outcomes. But yes, it is an area of concern and focus for us.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm going to finish there and thank both Spencer and Chief Inspector for your huge amount of your work you're doing. And I'm aware that I think funding for Essex Police is looking under threat. And of course, at the moment you have a great team here working, but if we lose, I think they're looking to save 10 million, isn't it? They've been asked to save.
Yeah, I don't have the exact figure, and the figure rolls over several years, but yes, we do have funding. There's currently a large-scale review currently going on that is looking at all opportunities to save money, but also streamline some of the processes that we do to make them better. As a result of that, and to ensure that we're sustainable going forward, obviously we have to deliver a balanced budget.
That's a very nice answer, but I think anyone losing that amount from their budget will find it very hard not to lose staff, which I hope we will lobby against, because I think it's a very difficult job, and what's being done in the partnerships requires people as well as the dedication, and obviously the people looking at this who have a passion for their job. I think it would be a great shame to lose the momentum we've got. So that's a comment, not a challenge for you. I'm not trying to put you in the spot. So I'll now move. So I think we've gone quite a while tonight, so thank you for your patience. Just going to have a quick look at the work programme, which is item number 10. That's fairly self-explanatory. Just one comment. We've got the 1st of June put in there because it's quite likely that the pre-election period is going to interfere with the meeting that was scheduled for May. So that is why that change is there. That will be confirmed obviously later when we get the pre-election dates and everything else. aside from that, I think we talked right at the beginning about the Bow Bridge and Waterside informant debate, and you're all aware that we've got the call-in that will take place next Monday on the 16th of February. So aside from that, I think this speaks for itself. Unless anyone's got any questions on the programme of work, I don't intend to say too much more of it. Okay, with no questions then, I have not been notified of any urgent business. So unless somebody has something burning they need to say now, I'm going to say that the meeting is now complete and confirm that it's now ended. So thank you very much for the input we've had, the interest we've had from the councillors here, and I wish you a safe journey home.